here today to talk about the postpartum recovery and healing process. This is something that so many women have questions about, so if this is you, just know that you are not alone, and it's normal to feel overwhelmed about the postpartum process if you're currently pregnant or if you are newly postpartum. It's something that our society really doesn't talk about or teach us how to deal with after baby. One of the biggest questions we get is, when is my first postpartum care visit? And the thing here is that it's a little bit up in the air. Typically, it's going to be about 6 weeks postpartum. You are going to go in for your first checkup with your OBGYN. Some doctor's offices are actually reaching out and calling you prior to that 6-week visit, and that's because ACOG, or the American Congress of Obstetricians and Gynecologists, put out a review of the guidelines recommending that women be seen closer to about 2 to 3 weeks postpartum. So a lot of doctors' offices can't accommodate this influx of patients. Doctors' offices actually aren't even reimbursed for postpartum services, so that's a big piece of the puzzle here, but that's a story for another day. So just know that you might get a call 2 to 3 weeks postpartum. And then we can also help you here at Binto. So if you have any quick questions or just want to chat with a healthcare professional, you can do that too. They're going to run through a review of systems, check in with your mental health. They want to check in with your incision if you've had a C-section. You want to make sure they're asking about your perineum, that's your vaginal care, and that they're asking about your pelvic floor. You also want to make sure that they're checking to see if you have diastasis recti, so that would be if your abdomen splits. And generally, they should be asking about how breastfeeding's going if you're breastfeeding, and other things. Feel free to bring your partner to this or a friend so you don't feel so overwhelmed if you have a lot of questions. And if you have any time, write it down before you go to your appointment. We also have a great ebook on how to plan for the postpartum stage. So if you haven't read that, be sure to download that on our site and check it out because it is free to all of you. At your postpartum care visit, you also want to ask your doctor, your healthcare provider, about getting your period back. What we tell you here at Binto is that you can expect to have postpartum bleeding for about 6 weeks postpartum, and this goes for anyone who's had a vaginal or a C-section, because what's happening is that uterine lining that built up has to shed, so whether or not you've had a vaginal or C-section, you're still going to bleed. If you are breastfeeding, you could go without a period for months until you stop breastfeeding, and then you might get a cycle back. However, lots of women who breastfeed still ovulate and get periods. It might just be a couple months, so maybe 2 to 3 months, give or take. If you're strictly formula feeding, you're probably going to get your period 3 to 4 weeks after you finish that 6-week bleed, and you're going to pick your period back up again. The next thing we get asked a lot about is, when am I going to feel like I can go outside and, be social or do things? And the thing here is that it's really up to you. So listen to your body, listen to your mind and your gut, and see how you're feeling. Literally take it day by day. And if you feel like you're gonna go stir crazy in your home, it's okay to go outside and take the baby for a walk, or go out to lunch with a friend, or grab a cup of coffee. It's totally fine to be going out and socializing. Just make sure, you might feel a little uncomfortable. You might still be wearing mesh postpartum underwear with a pad, but that's okay. It's good to sort of try to get back to the things that make you feel like you. And that leads me into the next question, which is the one that we hear a lot, and it's, when am I going to feel like myself again? And the thing here is that once you've had a baby, your whole life shifts, and you may not necessarily go back to the person you were before, but for some women it can be just a couple of months, and for others it might be at least a year or more after they've had their baby to really feel like you're sort of in your own skin again. So it's different for everybody. There's no one size fits all when it comes to postpartum recovery or life in general. So interesting process, and we're here to guide you through. And again, don't hesitate to reach out, and we are here to answer your questions.